All right. Hello. Hi, Jen. Hi, Michelle. Honore. Alyssa. Laura. Julie. Oh, so fun. Super cool. Let's see here. Just waiting for Cory to pop on. Okay. There we go. Hi, Belinda. Yay. Thank you guys for being here tonight. This is going to be a fun conversation. Oh. Cory and I tried this out earlier and now he's having trouble joining. But that's okay. We'll figure it out.
Nice.
Here. Yay.
I was like, join the live. Why isn't it joining? We practiced this.
I know. Third time's a charm. So, hello. Good to see you.
Hey, good to see you. Hello, everybody. I am super stoked to get to know a new crowd of people tonight. Some of you I have known for a bit, but it's always fun to meet a new group of people and hear what you're up to. And I'm Cory. I'm the head of marketing at Productive Flourishing, and I have known Jennifer for. Oh, wait, we're not going to say it.
Don't say how long.
We're not going to say how long because we're going to talk about it in a minute. But I reached out to her a few months ago and I said, hey, I'm doing this new thing over at Productive Flourishing. And I thought it would be fun to get with your group and talk about a couple different things. And we settled on time blocking. And so we've been running these time blocking challenges all year, and it's been really, really fascinating to see how people have reacted to not only the idea of time blocking, but realizing like how it can transform how you schedule your life, how you get things done. And one of the things, like just personally, how it changes the way I give myself permission to be in the world. Because I recently, like this year, was diagnosed with ADHD, right? And it's one of those things where you get the diagnosis and you look back on the rest of your life and go, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
For sure.
Yeah, I've been this way my whole life. And so see, like using time blocking and some of the planning methodology that we use at Productive Flourishing allows me to sort of embrace my creative and scattered nature and still get things done. So I'm excited about the conversation.
Yeah, and to always be looking for what are my strengths and how can I leverage those better
Mm-hmm.
to make the time for the things that are important to me, including scrapbooking and hobbies and just all those creative passions. Particularly our group, we have lots of creative dabblers. We're not just scrapbookers. We like
Uh-huh.
all the crafts.
Uh-huh.
And so how do we find time for that and fit it
Mm-hmm.
into our lives? And I
Yeah.
have always felt so much synergy with Productive Flourishing over the years. Just very aligned with the types of things that we're talking about, because we're not talking about how your page looks, we're talking about how your hobby works.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited for this conversation, and I'm so excited to see so many friendly faces tonight, familiar and new faces as well. And so thank you guys for being here. Cory has some fun things to share, kind of a training for us, but we'll have plenty of time for questions as well, and I'll try to be monitoring those. And yeah, just pop in. And the first question I have for all of you is, who has tried time blocking before and like couldn't make it work for you, couldn't quite figure it out? Because I'm raising my hand there. I've tried so many times, and the time I can never stop at the right time, or I don't want to do that thing during that particular block. And how do we pay attention to how our brains and bodies work to better align the activities with the time?
Yep.
Carol says me and me.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
absolutely.
sure we're not alone here.
It is a practice. It's not like a thing you get to and then you're done with it and you've conquered it. And
Mhm.
You are now perfect at time blocking. It's more like a practice where you try to be, you exercise the thing and you do the thing knowing that you're going to do it imperfectly. And I think for myself, it is very freeing to realize that. It's sort of like with meditation when you realize like,
Oh, yeah.
oh, like the goal of meditation is not to meditate perfectly. The goal of meditation is to build the ability to clear your mind. And it's sometimes you're good at it, sometimes you're not good at it, and that's okay. Yeah.
And to just embrace that always being a beginner, and that's a good thing, to
Hmm.
always be learning from your experience as you go forward.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And the way that time blocking or any planning process works for one person is going to be pretty different than it will be for another person. And that's why like there's frameworks out there that are very rigid and say you have to do it this way or you have to do it that way. And creative people, artists, we tend to be like, no, because we want to make it our own. We want to like customize it. We want
Yeah.
to be creative with it. And I don't think I talked about like my background from like before starting a Productive Flourishing. Right? I am a creative person at heart. I have a BFA in acting. I went to theater school. I for the longest time I have been a performer. Um, I work with a lot of artists. In another life, I run a business called The Abundant Artist, where we help artists learn how to sell their art online. So I have spent my entire adult life either being a creative person, making art, or helping other people put their art out into the world. So, uh, for the creative people that are here in the audience, like you are my people.
Hmm. For sure.
Yeah. Okay, so where do you want to start with time blocking? Because we have like if I'm going to teach somebody time blocking, I have like the 5 things that I would teach them. But I'm curious if there are questions that people have first, or if there's questions that you want to get to first, Jennifer.
One of the things that already came up in the comments
Hmm.
is being able to understand or estimate how long something's going to take.
Hmm.
That it always takes longer than we think it's going to.
Yeah.
And how do we become more realistic at doing that?
Hmm. Yeah. I hope it's okay that I just like drop a couple of resources as I talk through things because we have a lot of resources about this stuff over at PF. So I'll try to drop some links in the chat, and then if anybody wants to follow up, I'll share those as well. But first thing I'll say is like estimating how long things take is actually really hard. It's one of the hardest things about planning. And so if you're not good at estimating how long something is going to take, you're in good company because that's
Mhm.
true of everybody that I know, from super experts like my boss Charlie, all the way through to anybody else that I know that tries this. Estimating how long something takes experience, right? The first time you do something, you almost never know. And the more times you do something, the better you get at it. But if you add new elements to it, if you change the way you do it, it changes. So the thing I always tell people is the best way to start to figure this out is to start tracking your time.
Mhm.
And when I say that, people often go, "Ah, no."
It's hard. It's
It's
intimidating to think about it that way. To
yeah.
be realistic and honest with yourself too.
Mhm.
Of I spent 15 minutes scrolling Instagram. How many times today? You know?
But you don't have to start being super
Yeah.
exact, right?
Mhm.
One of the things that I did when I first started doing the time block challenge, and I keep this for my moleskins on hand, um, is I just went through my calendar for a week. And I keep a calendar, so not everybody does. But if you do keep a calendar, it's really nice to just go through your calendar and say, what did I do this week, and how much time did I spend doing each of those individual things? I'm trying to find the right page. So what I'll do is, and I can even show you in my digital calendar here, if I go look at, for example, last week, um, and I'm going to show some deep, scary secrets here and show my camera, my calendar. Okay, so here's my calendar for last week, right? And so here's Sunday, and you see like I've got these are just the things that I put in my calendar. Some of them are meetings, some of them are blocks of time that I chunked out to do a certain project, right?
Okay.
So on Sunday, it says at 8:15 a.m. I had bishopric meeting. It was like a church leadership thing, right? And then I had my church worship meeting at 10 o'clock, which overlaps with a recurring meeting to Drano my sink. So, so the Drano the sink thing didn't happen because I was at church. And so you get like, it's messy. And then, you know, I had my personal Sunday school thing that I do on Sunday afternoons. And then as you go into the week, you see like the blue stuff is my productive flourishing stuff. The green stuff is like my side projects. They're work, but they're not productive flourishing. Red stuff is personal. And so like when I have my whole days blocked out, it's usually a reminder to do like on Wednesday, I have a work remotely. Like Wednesdays I try to work somewhere that's not at home because I talk a lot and I'm on a lot of calls. So I try to make sure that I'm working either at Charlie's or like at a coffee shop or something. And then on Thursdays is no call days. So at Productive Flourishing, we don't do meetings on Thursdays. So I'll just block out my whole time, my whole day so that I don't book any calls. And nobody can book any calls with me. And then in between all of that, yeah. And then in between all of that, I've got like Monday morning at 6:30, I am at my desk doing my weekly planning time, right? And basically, I just try to put as much of what I'm doing in my calendar as I can.
We have a good question here. Do you put things in your calendar retroactively, or all these were they already planned?
Yeah, so most of this is stuff that's planned. I try not to put things in retroactively or I'll drive myself nuts. Because you're like, oh, well, like I planned on this day going this way, but then by the end of the day, 6 other things had happened. And if I tried to put all of that into my calendar, then whatever. So what I'll usually say is if you're brand new to time blocking, just keep a calendar for a week and try to write down what you're doing. It doesn't have to be exact. If you're within half an hour, that's really good. That's a really good starting place, right? And so for the week that when we started doing these time block challenges, I tracked a week. I should have found this before the call, but basically we were in the middle of creating a new video that we were shooting this past summer. And so I was spending a lot of time, what's the word I'm looking for? Like writing. I was just spending a ton of time writing that week. And as I was working on a script. So I had in my 40-hour work week, I had about 13 hours of writing time, right? Even though like this day was writing a script and this day was writing a blog post and this day was writing social media content. I just said writing and creative content creation time, right? And I think I had something like 5 hours of like calls, just calls where I was on doing meetings with people, right? And so just writing down, I've spent this much time doing this and this much time doing this and this much time doing this, helps you start to understand how you're already spending your time.
Before you even make any changes to really have a baseline to start from.
Yeah, because it's not realistic to say, oh, I'm gonna spend 20 hours making art next week. If you're already spending 15, 20 hours doing like day job stuff that takes up all your time.
Yeah. Well, I think that one thing that, and maybe this affects everyone, but I think it's a creative person problem that sometimes I sit down and it's like beating your head against the wall and I make something and it's like, this is terrible. And it took me an hour to make something terrible. And then the next day I sit down and I can make something amazing in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And so that's such a conundrum.
Yes. So like creative work, the muse strikes whenever the muse strikes, right? But the muse only strikes if you're actually working.
Yes.
So you have to put in the work, and sometimes it's a slog and you just like, and you're beating your head against the wall and nothing's working. And sometimes it's just like, boom, 15 minutes, done.
Yeah.
And sometimes, yeah, like Mint and Julie here says it takes time to get in the flow too. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes, so this is why I have like my weekly planning session is Monday morning at 6:30. It's 2 hours, and it's that time every week, regardless. And sometimes I'm done with all my planning in like an hour, and sometimes I don't finish. And it's just the practice of having it there at that same time every week is
Mhm.
the anchor to my week, right? And each morning I try to write for an hour as well. And sometimes I write 100 words, and sometimes I write 1,000 words, and they're both valid.
I'm curious if you've experimented with doing it on Friday versus Monday
Mhm.
or even Sunday. Like how, like what made that decision for you that Monday morning was the best time?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started doing it, uh, probably I want to say 6 or 7 years ago, I experimented with trying to do it Friday afternoon. Experimented
Mhm.
with trying to do it Sunday night, and this is for me. It's
Sure.
different for everybody. It kind of depends on your own rhythms and flows. Friday afternoon, um, I was too tired and crabby to realistically plan my week. Right? Friday afternoon, I was like, I don't want to do any of this. This is stupid. Why am I planning
But
next
wouldn't that
week?
make you give you like the most realistic plan if you're like the least optimistic about how much you can get done?
So I try to work from a place of joy as much as possible.
Mhm.
For me, if I am crabby and unhappy, I don't do my best work.
Sure.
Yeah. I tried planning on Sunday nights, and I just for myself I have too many. I have like church responsibilities
Mhm.
for the things, so I'm usually like tired by the time I get to Sunday night. Like my Sundays are usually pretty busy. But Monday morning, I'm excited. I'm an early riser naturally, and so I just get up and do it. And nobody else is up at 6:30 on Monday morning. Nobody's calling me. Nobody's bothering me. Nobody's messaging me on Slack. I have 6:30 Monday morning to myself, so
For
that works for
sure.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you've
And
got like 6 kids at home, 6:30 Monday morning is not the time to do it.
no, probably not. No, but to really pay attention to your energy levels
Mhm.
because, some night owls, they may like get all their energy on Friday nights and they're ready to go. And
Yep.
so take advantage of that time if you're feeling excited
Yep.
about the time ahead. I can also see that sometimes just that pause of the weekend starts to give you more clarity about what you actually need to do. Like you
Mhm.
think on Friday, this is what I need to do. But then once you kind of exhale, go about your real life, you realize, oh, here's what I want to incorporate into my week
Yeah.
coming
And
up.
again, it's not about planning perfectly. It is the practice of planning,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because plans fall apart. I've planned my week on Monday, and by Tuesday, my plan was irrelevant. The point is to have the practice of planning so that you're at least thinking through what is it that I'm going to do in this day, week, month, year.
So if your plan has gone off the wall
Mhm.
by Tuesday, do you like course correct and make a new
Mhm.
plan?
Yeah, yeah, I try to. It won't be as in depth. It
Yeah.
won't. Yeah, like oh shoot, like a team member got sick and they're not going to be here for the rest of the week, and I was depending on them to do XYZ, which by the way, that's what happened last week.
Yeah.
Like did my plan, and then Monday, like later on in the day, I found out that that team member was sick, and so I had to like rejigger a bunch of stuff for the week, and that happens. And so basically, what I did is I circled up with my team and said, "Hey, we're going to have to like move this thing to next week, and we're going to have to um, not do this, and then I'm going to need to have you like not do that and help me with this." Like, and that's life.
Well, and I think that like, you can make that analogy to any kind of project. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes we say, okay, I want to work on this album tonight. And then something happens with the family, or something happens with your day job, or you have a family member that needs something. And okay, we have to pause. And then
Yep.
that's when we can ask for help We can move things around. And sometimes it's also just a matter of letting things go. If you want to continue to get this thing done,
Yep.
you may have to let the laundry go an extra day, or, and
Yeah.
it can be so hard to shift those expectations to give yourself the time to.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so many good comments. There's obviously some skilled and experienced planners in this audience. Because I see Alyssa says, but having your plan helps you identify your highest priorities so that when you do rejigger, you know what's important. Yeah. Like the practice of planning helps you identify what's important.
Yes.
Yeah.
We do have a lot of very experienced planners, and we geek out of this. This is why we do
Yeah.
our planning party every year. And we love talking about these topics.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
if I'm going to get started, if I want to try time blocking again, where do I start?
Yeah. So once you have tracked your calendar for a week, if you're a little more experienced, try tracking your calendar for a month. If you really want to get granular with it, if you really want to make it painful, then try doing something like installing a program called Rescue Time on your computer. So Rescue Time tracks down to the second how much time you spend in every application on your computer and every website that you visit on the internet. So if you look at a Rescue Time report after a month, it will tell you exactly how much time you spent on Facebook when you thought that you were doing, whatever else. I typically find that the ones that surprise me are social media and email. And we spend way more time there than we think we do. So, okay, once you have an idea of how much time you're spending on what, then at Productive Flourishing, we break time blocking into separate blocks. We have types of time blocks.
Okay, and what are those?
So we have focus blocks, which is focus blocks are the time that you spend on deep creative work that can't just be done quickly, right? So this could be all kinds of things, but some examples are writing software, if you're a software developer. If you're a writer, it's writing long form books, poetry, whatever. If you're a scrapbooker, it's going to be making like a large layout, right? These things might take hours, and you can't really just sit down and work on it for 10 minutes.
Well, we did talk a lot about that. So,
okay.
Yeah, no, but if you really want to get into it, particularly if you're going to do multiple things, maybe you're working on an album project. This time of year, a lot of people are doing, it's called December Daily. It's a Christmas album. And so you have a lot of photos this time of year. And so you want to really dive in and spend some time on it. So I think we can do things in short blocks of time, but sometimes, particularly if it's deeper stories, more heartfelt journaling, more meaningful projects. I teach a class called Before Your Story, which is all about your growing up story. Mm-hmm. I think that particular project definitely requires a focus block because you're thinking about, the things that you loved when you were a child and the places you went. And it's, it can evoke a lot of feelings in different directions too. So,
yeah. So we're going through and looking at how we spent our time in the previous week, month, whatever, and we're identifying which kind of block that thing could or should belong in, right? Okay. I don't want to say should, could belong in, might belong in, is most appropriate according to you, right? Mm-hmm. So focus blocks, admin blocks. So this is low energy things that don't require a great deal of concentration. Some examples of admin blocks are things like just going through your email, just triaging your email, not even necessarily answering email, just deleting all the spam and reading a couple of quick newsletters and comics, and then setting aside the ones that need deep answers for later or for the end of the admin block, right? And it could be just running errands. I need to go drop some books off at the post office, and I need to run to the grocery store. Admin blocks.
I would say that getting your photos from one place to another would be a good connection for that. And then also not like deep organization of your supplies, but like just putting things away, like
Mhm.
tidying where it's obvious, like you know where things go. You just need to clean up the mess, like that first layer of mess, not the second layers that require some decisions.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. So then the third kind of block in time blocking is social blocks.
Okay.
So this is time that you're doing with other people. And I often find that I struggle helping people understand when something should be a focus block and when something should be a social block. Because for me, being very extroverted, I get a lot of energy out of being with people. Like I love getting in a room with people, love having a meeting, brainstorming session, an Instagram live. So for some people, something like this is going to be a focus block because it requires deep, intense concentration. Where the more time I spend with people, the more energy I get. So what is a social block for some people might be a focus block for others. Your mileage may vary.
I really appreciate that
Mhm.
distinction as an introvert who has to recover from activities like this. Even though like I'll get a little jazzed up afterwards and like, yay, I'm awesome. Then I'm like, oh, now I need to go be alone.
Yeah, but
But I appreciate that a lot because I think it really makes a difference if you kind of, we talk a lot about kind of different personality frameworks here and really understanding yourself as the foundation for making decisions about what productivity techniques and tools are going to work best for you.
yeah, yeah. So then the fourth kind of block, and I'm just looking at my notes here to make sure that I explain this the way I want to. Recovery blocks. Okay,
Ooh, what is
and
that?
and
I'm writing
recovery
this down
blocks,
myself.
yeah, like recovery blocks are maybe the weirdest way that we talk about time blocking because recovery blocks are variable length and it is whatever recovery looks like for you, right? So say you go do a social thing and a social thing is a focus block for you, so you're exhausted at the end of it. What does recovery look like for you? It could be just taking a 20-minute power nap. It could be a meditation session. It could be like just watching a TV show for 20 minutes and letting your body and your nervous system calm down. Whatever recovery looks like for you. Um, we will often talk at Productive Flourishing, we'll say, gosh, you've got a lot planned this week. How are you going to recover? What are you doing to take care of yourself?
I have two questions here. First off, what does your recovery block look like?
Uh-huh. So for me, a recovery block often looks like scheduling time with my friends. So I'll get a happy hour on the schedule, like, hey, let's go have drinks down the street, or let's play a
So you're
game.
recovering from the focus time, not the social
Yeah,
time.
yeah, for sure. Um, or yeah, like for me, social blocks are often like coincidental with recovery blocks,
Okay.
and you can mix and match it however you want, whatever works for you. Recovery blocks for me are also like I meditate. I will, and you can pre-recover.
That's
This
what
is
I was
like,
going to say.
yeah,
Yeah.
like you can pre-recover. If I know that I have a really big meeting or I know that I have a really like hectic day coming, I will pre-recover. I have started days taking a hot bath and having a 10-minute meditation session before I start my day because I know it's going to be an intense day.
Love that. I
Yeah.
think I feel like this particular category is maybe what has been missing from a lot of our attempts in the past.
Hmm.
Um, Maybe a little bit of the social, but to me, it's like not ever the priority on the
Yeah.
calendar. But
Yeah.
whatever recovery looks like for you, I think
Carla
making
says
sure you're trying to
pre-covery,
balance
and I
that.
like it.
Yeah, pre-covery.
Pre-covery, I like it. Yeah. And the thing is, like, you have to recover. You have to. So time blocking for me, and I think for productive flourishing is less about managing your time and more about managing your energy. Right.
100%. Yeah.
So one of the things that we get to a little later in this process is heat mapping your energy levels. So we say, all right, look at your like keep a calendar or a diary next to you for a week And when you finish an activity, write down what was your energy level at the end of the activity and what time of day was it. And as you do this, and we have if you want to go to productiveflourishing.com/free-planners, you can download a heat map template.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll have you color in your energy levels for the times of
Ooh.
day. Yeah. So for me, I have a lot of energy from like 6 a.m. until 10 or 11 a.m. And then I dip during lunch and usually dip quite a bit until like 2, 3 o'clock. And then I get a bunch of energy back. And then I'll dip again around dinner time. And then around like 8, 9 o'clock, I'll be like energetic and happy again for an hour or two until I go to bed. And it's peaks and valleys, and sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. But scheduling your focus blocks for when you have like the most energy and the most ability to concentrate is where things really start to take off with your schedule and your time blocking.
Well, and I think one thing we need, like, maybe this is like too granular, but focus blocks can be some of the things that you might consider admin, but I think I really like your distinction of admin work as the stuff that doesn't require a ton of brain power.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes there's like logistical, organizational, less fun tasks that you need that focus effort for.
Yep.
But then you also need some focus time for the creative, more right brain tasks. So like there's that left brain, right brain thing too. And you may have that maybe like the next level of looking at your heat map is when am I high in one and when am I high in the other? Because sometimes I'm like, go, 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 let's organize all the things and be productive. And other times, like, I just want to sit here and splatter paint on the page.
Yeah. You want to see the thing that requires me to absolutely schedule it for when I have the most energy and ability to concentrate.
Yeah.
So at Productive Flourishing, we love project planning. And it is like our thing, right? So let me show you the marketing project board. And I hope I don't get in trouble for showing you this, but I think it'll be illustrative. So this is we use an app called Asana. This is the marketing project board. So over here on the right, we have our completed projects for this time period. And then we have our on-hold projects, in-progress projects, assigned projects that haven't started yet, priority 1, priority 2, priority 3, and then ideas. So this is just our triage board where we take a project and we figure out what needs to be done and then assign it to people. And this is just for marketing. So every Tuesday, I get together with our marketing project manager and we go through this board and we assign things. And by the end of it, I am exhausted every week.
Yeah, I would use that for a recovery block. Because like I absolutely eat that stuff up. Like I love it. I do stuff. I use Trello, but I do stuff like that kind of for fun.
Yeah.
So there's definitely understanding personality here and what you need focus for, and what is recovery for you.
Yeah. Carla says, thanks for showing Asana. It looks similar to Trello. In some ways, like you can, I don't mean to go off on a tangent here. I can talk about tools. I really love talking tech. So this is the board view of Asana, which does look like Trello, but you can also have a list view or a timeline view. So you can actually see like how your projects stack up together over time. So you can see, gee, next week we have 37 projects. Why don't we push some out? That kind of stuff. So there's a lot of different ways. It's a very powerful tool.
There's two things I like better. Because I could talk about this forever too, but two things I think Asana really excels in is the seeing all your stuff together. Trello is less good at that. And then also, if you are a digital to print version, you want to see the printed version of all the things you need to do. Asana can do that. Trello really can't.
Yeah.
Because Trello doesn't print your checklists, and Asana does, and with every granular detail. So there are differences, pros and cons for sure. Depends on really what your needs are.
Yep. Okay. So now we've talked about the different types of time blocks. So then the next step is to map your productivity and figure out when you should have your focus blocks, right? And by the way, like I get up super early in the morning. I naturally wake up at about 5:30 every day. You don't have to be like me. Like Mike Vardy, my friend at Productivityist, Mike is a night owl, or night lark is what he calls himself. And his most productive time is like 10 p.m. to 2 or 3 a.m. And Brandon Sanderson, who's my favorite fantasy writer, he also like his writing schedule is like he hangs out with the kids from 4 to 8 or whatever, puts the kids to bed, and then he writes from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. And then he plays video games, and then he sleeps till noon. So it's okay to like structure your day in whatever time works best for your particular unique brain.
Yeah. Well, and lifestyle configuration too, because some of it's going to be internal to you and some of it's going to be external because we all have obligations and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So figure out what time your focus block should be at. And then you can, around your focus blocks, schedule your admin blocks, your social blocks, your recovery blocks. And so that is structuring the containers of your calendar so that then you start putting the what you're actually doing in those blocks. Right? So I know that I am going to be at my best for writing in the morning, usually from 7:30 to 10 o'clock a.m. most days. So I try to schedule 1 or 2 focus blocks first thing every morning for writing and content creation. And then I will say, okay, this week I have a blog post that I need to get done this week, or I need to finish this chapter of the book. So in my daily focus blocks in the morning, first thing I'm going to do is that project.
What would you say to someone who struggles to find alignment because of circumstance? That, you know, they have to go to work and do somebody else's focus work during their peak hours. How do we make the most of that and still find productive time elsewhere in the day?
Yeah.
I think that's a big stumbling block too, particularly when we're talking about how do we get our creative priorities in around the rest of life if we don't have total control of the full schedule.
Yeah. So I think there's, while acknowledging that some people are just in situations where their day-to-day job is totally dictated by the circumstances of whatever they're doing. If you're an air traffic controller, I'm sure that your job is dictated by the exigencies of the wind and weather, and you don't have a lot of control over that. However, if you are sort of a normal office worker, like a regular, normal's not the right word, but like if you just have an office job where you have XYZ projects that you're supposed to get done and you're mostly on your own, you can arrange your day to do the projects that need the most concentration around when you can have some focus blocks. Now, things like open office plans where you're in an office with a bunch of people and it's super noisy and you can't concentrate, like you have to do what you can to ameliorate that with some noise canceling headphones or whatever you can do. So I know that there's like limitations on all of this. That said, I think you have to take some ownership and start talking to your teammates and to your boss about your work habits and how your work habits intersect with what the rest of the team needs, right? So there's some give and take there. You might say, you know, for myself, you know, my best times, my best concentration is in the mornings before 10 a.m. So can we please not have meetings before 10 a.m.? And then that way I can get some great work done, and then we can talk about it at 10 or 11 or noon or whatever you need. and you just have to have that conversation with people.
What kind of block would do meetings fit in? Are they something else? I mean, it seems like you could have different types of meetings. Like
You could.
sometimes you need to use your focus energy for a
Mhm.
meeting, and sometimes it's more social, or sometimes it's more admin.
Yeah.
Does it really, should you be assigning your meetings to a category or no?
I think ideally, if the person, yes, the short answer is yes. You would be assigning a type of block to your meeting,
Mhm.
and ideally, if you're working in a team, you would be thinking about the team's energy level and the team's work ways. Which, by the way, like we have a whole like new series of content and a book coming out in 2023 about this exact topic, about how productivity practice intersects with teams, and we're
Oh,
calling it workways. And
okay.
there's 8 distinct workways, and I'm not going to get all of them off the top of my head because we just started talking about it. But it's basically like what are the habits that your team has? What is the belonging that your team has? How do you make decisions as a team? And a couple of others. So, uh, yes, like ideally, the person calling the meeting or the person in charge would be looking at the meetings and saying, you know, this meeting is going to require like some intense concentration. So we should maybe not do that at noon on Friday. Uh, um, but you know, you can't always control that, and sometimes you have to have a meeting when it's not convenient for everybody, but
Mhm.
that's life. So ideally, you would have thinking about the nature of the meeting and what kind of knowledge work or mental processes are going to have to happen
Sure.
during that time. And boy, we could really get into a lot of conversation about when meetings should be an email versus when meetings should be when you actually need to have a discussion. But that's maybe a whole other topic. Um,
I have a 5 minute meeting every Monday at 2 p.m. that could be an email. Um, but since we're mostly remote now, it's the only time I see some people's
yeah.
faces.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, and meeting and that's where that meeting might be a social block, right?
yeah.
That
Hmm.
meeting is a social block because the team needs time to bond.
Yeah.
You do need to have that time. We have at Productive Flourishing, we have our weekly team huddle that we just moved to noon because we have people in 6 different states now. So we moved it to noon Pacific time so that we can have that time together. And we have some unique practices, like we have scheduled water cooler time where we talk about whatever, and we have like we end our team meeting by highlighting the meeting and saying what was the big thing you took away from the meeting, or what was the thing that stood out to you during the meeting.
I
We have
love
some
that.
specific practices around how we do team meetings, but yeah, they're social blocks.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, where are we? So we've thought about the different types, and we've started maybe assigning the activities that we need to do to
Mm-hmm.
those one of those blocked types. How do we prevent kind of overfilling the day? Like how
Uh-huh.
much margin uh like do you build in? Like do you just say the rest is recovery? How scheduled should you be
Yeah. Okay.
to do this
So
effectively?
if you get nerdy and start reading the scientific research on productivity and focus and flow, generally speaking, the human brain can only handle 2 or 3 focus blocks per day. Uh, 4 if you're having a particularly good day. 1 if you're not having a very good day, or maybe none, right? Um,
And about how is the block like 52 minutes? Is it,
90 to 120 minutes.
90 to 120?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Um, I try to plan them for 2 hours because, as somebody said earlier in the chat, it takes a while to fall into the rhythm, right?
Yeah.
So if you plan 90 minutes and it takes you 20 minutes or so to really get into the groove, then you really only have 70 minutes of highly productive time. But again, that's okay. So try to limit yourself to having no more than like 3 focus blocks per day. And if you have a day where you have 4 focus blocks, it's a very good chance that the next day you're not going to be able to do more than 1 or 2.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and some of that, I think, to understand that you may have been in a position where you had 8 hours of focus, whatever that was,
Mm-hmm.
and that takes energy,
It does.
and you're going to need you're going to need the recovery time to balance that out. I think sometimes we're really hard on ourselves if
Mm-hmm.
we can't perform at the same level every single day, and that's
Nobody
not how we
performs.
work.
Nobody performs at the same level every single time.
Yeah.
Nobody. Like,
Why do we only have they only do football games once a week because of that, right?
yeah, yeah. Like
So,
if you watch, so there's a great ESPN article on LeBron James' recovery routine,
mhm.
and it is insanely intense. He spends $1 million a year on his recovery between like he owns a bariatric chamber at home, like an oxygen chamber at home.
Mhm.
He has a personal trainer that travels with him full time, and he spends a lot of money on what he eats, and he sleeps like 10 hours a day.
Wow.
Not all at once, but like he sleeps for like 6 to 8 hours every night, and then he'll take usually one or two naps every day. And so he's very intentional about his recovery time. And
Mhm.
you know, LeBron James spends $1 million a year. He's one of the greatest basketball players of all time, and he has bad days. He has days where he kind of sucks at basketball. Um, so if you're at that level and you have that level of intensity about your recovery and your process, and you still can't be perfectly consistent, I think you can give yourself a break about having an off day.
For sure, for sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah, they're like fine-tuned machines for sure. So,
Yeah.
but we're
Yeah.
still a human.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, we like stuff happens. We get sick. You know, the kids get sick. Mom shows up out of the blue without any warning and wants to hang out. Like they're like stuff happens, and so you lose time, and that's why you have to build in margin. You know, plan for 80% capacity for your day, week, month. Try not to plan yourself at 100% capacity
Mm,
because stuff comes up.
for sure. I like that.
Yeah. And typically speaking, you know, we have the 5 projects rule at Productive Flourishing, and this goes back to the productivity science piece. Generally speaking, our brains are only capable of remembering no more than 5 projects in any given time slice, right? So I know that today I have to do these 3 to 5 things. If I try to remember more than 5 things that I have to do in a day, I start to struggle with remembering whether or not I did them or what order to do them in or whether I actually did them or not. Same thing for a week. Oh, I have these 5 things I have to do this week. We usually say 3, like try to pick 3 things that you're going to do. 5 is like if you're really
Yeah.
maxed out. And we'll talk in a second about like people who are in caretaker positions or people who have like large families or people who are doing projects that are not paid work. So let me come back to that. You want to build in margin around all of that so that you are not pushing yourself past the 5 project rule.
When we often talk about it in terms of these are the 3 things I know I want to get done, and I'm holding space for
Mm-hmm.
either here's the 2 and I'm holding space for the 3rd, or here's the 3 and I'm holding space for number 4 and number 5, because
Mm-hmm.
there's always going to be things that you didn't realize you wanted or needed to do.
Yep.
And there's going to be new opportunities. You know, there's always a new thing to buy, a new class to take, a new thing to experience, a new Instagram live to watch.
Uh-huh.
And so you can't plan for all the fun that's out there, because sometimes there's a degree of spontaneity that you want. That's what you need to plan for. You need to plan to be flexible
Yep.
with your time.
Yeah. So Debbie Day to Day says, is this like 3 to 5 tasks per day and maybe 3 to 5 projects in a week? Yes. Yeah, that's exactly right.
I like that.
Yeah.
I think
And
the
that
more
extends
you
out
can
to
take
the
smaller.
monthly, quarterly, yearly as well. Like 5 year long projects is a big project, right? Like if you're thinking I'm going to do these 5 things this year, if they're really year long projects, that is a big thing to hold in your head. A lot of people will pick 1 or 2 year long projects that break
Mhm.
down into 3 to 5 monthly or quarterly projects.
Well, some of the things that come up for us is that thinking about your scrapbooking as part of how you plan your life, like
Mhm.
incorporating that into your life plan, that could be new to some people. And then also to, once you have that, once you are thinking about planning your scrapbooking, to remember that you have the rest of your life priorities too. Like it goes
Yeah.
both ways.
Yeah.
That when you're thinking about those 5 projects, that's 5 across everything.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
really only, you can't juggle all the things at once. You can't do 5 major year-long scrapbooking projects, 5 major home projects, 5 personal
Yes.
health wellness.
Yes. You
That's
can't
just
build a house and have a baby and completely do a lifelong scrapbook project all in the same year. It's just too
no.
much. Yeah. Debbie says, how do these two distinguish themselves on the day versus week view? So I think if we can give a practical example here, like what would a week long scrapbook project look like?
Sometimes it could be as small as I want to finish a layout by Friday, and so I'm
Mhm.
gonna, print my photos on Monday, pick my supplies on Tuesday, and then work on it like Wednesday through Friday. It can be
Mhm.
as small as that
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
that's all we can do in a week.
Yeah. That's a great example. Yep. So last week I had our church Christmas party, right?
Mhm.
So last week it was make sure that so and so ordered the meat. So we have to make sure that everything's ready for the Christmas party by Saturday. So make sure that so and so ordered the meat by Wednesday. Make sure that these people have all the rolls and the bread done, and that they have a day that they're going to bring all the bread to the church. And make sure that so and so knows that they are conducting the singing and that they have all of the hymns and the songs printed out and ready to hand out by Friday, right? So these are just like week long projects that you break down into daily tasks.
Yeah. Well, in some days, most of your tasks will be on one project or in
Mm-hmm.
one kind of domain. I remember, probably 15, 20 years ago in my early adulthood, I was thinking like I can really only juggle like 3 zones of life at once. There was like
Yeah.
personal life, work, and then like volunteer. Like that
Mm-hmm.
was all I could do. And every time something else crept in, like I didn't have time for the creativity at that point in my life.
Yeah.
As I've gotten older, I've learned more skills to like manage my time and my energy,
Yeah.
and I can feel like I can do a few more zones.
Mm-hmm.
But to really pay attention of what ends up sliding, um, so that you can figure out, is your number more like 3 or is your number more like 5?
Yeah. And yeah, these things change over time. And sometimes you're feeling really good, you're feeling really healthy, and you have a lot of energy and skill, and you're able to manage 5 projects at a time. And sometimes you have a chronic illness and you have low energy and you have a lot of pressure weighing on you, and you manage 1 or 2 projects at a time, right? And managing a chronic illness, by the way, is a project.
For sure.
Yeah. So if you're like, I have a job and I have kids and I have a chronic illness, you have 3 projects. Yeah.
For sure. And so I think sometimes when one of those becomes weightier, that's when we can feel kind of off balance, for
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
because we can no longer seeing that. Yeah.
So somebody said, can you repeat the types of
Mhm.
blocks? It's product. So if you go to productiveflourishing.com/time dash blocking, and I think Oshi's in the chat and she might drop the link
Mhm.
there. Um, that goes into detail on all the types of blocks. But just real quickly, I can share with you. the types of, in fact, let's just do this. Boop. All right, whoops. The types of blocks: focus blocks, admin blocks, social blocks, recovery blocks. And then you can see how we've proposed laying out the different kinds of blocks there. So some good resources there.
Something just popped up for me. I think the paying attention to how you spend your time, particularly if you are going off into the world and there ends up being like unplanned social time. Like I get to work 2 hours before my coworker. She shows up, and then there's like at least 30 minutes of chit chat, where some of it's like work related and some of it's not. But that needs to be more planned into the day that that's going to happen, and to not like schedule your focus time for when you know social tends to happen. And it could be like picking the kids up at school and you're chit-chatting with some moms, and so you come home from school about 30 minutes later. So thinking about when those things maybe more organically happen.
So last night, on every other Monday, I play Dungeons and Dragons with my friends, and we're in like 4 different states. So this is like a special time that we can play games together, and it's like the only time we can socialize together. And I finish work at 5. And we play D&D at 7. And so I told my wife, like, oh, we'll have dinner together between work and D&D. And my wife was like, will we really? Because you're going to stop work at 5, which means that you're really going to stop work at 5:45, because you're going to like have just 3 more emails to answer. And then you're going to start D&D at 7, which really means you're going to go upstairs to your office at 6:40 so that you can get ready for D&D. And I was like, okay, called out. Yes, absolutely. So I will absolutely stop work at 5, whatever I'm doing, and we will have dinner together. Like acknowledging the rhythms and flows that we have and being realistic with ourselves. Very, very hard. Yeah. But I think
it is hard, and I think you can like we always talk about that awareness is the first step of just being able to make a change. If you're aware of it, you either have to plan for it or to bring in some of that discipline, if you still have any willpower at that point in the day, to say, okay, no, I have to stop.
Yeah.
Like if I want to bring this other enjoyable thing into my life too.
Yeah, absolutely. And this goes back to the heat mapping exercise that I talked about earlier. Like if you heat map your day and you say, oh, I'm really productive in this time of day, or I have a lot of energy at this time of day. When your coworker comes in, you can be like, you know what, I love talking with you. But like going forward, I need this first hour, 2 hours of the day. I want to make sure that I start my day off right. So let's chat at 10 o'clock instead of at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, let's plan a particular time in which we're going to, have coffee or whatever. So,
or you plan on doing your most focused work after that coworker gets there. Having been that especially chatty coworker,
no, I would never guess that.
Yes, 100% me. Okay. We're scheduled for an hour, right? Like I'm having fun and I'm happy to keep talking, but I want to honor everybody's time. I think we said that we were going to give away a copy of Start Finishing. So Start Finishing is Charlie's book on productivity. And it's really about how to go from idea to done. Right, that's the tagline that it says on here.
We read it for our book club last year.
Oh, nice! Yeah. So we're going to give away a copy of Start Finishing, and we had a funny idea on how to give away the book. So do you want to explain this?
Yeah. So what we're going to do is when we say go, which is how we always do giveaways here, that you're going to guess what year Cory and I first met. And we actually met because we were both audience members at a creative live session for Tara McMullen. And if you've ever been to like camp, that's totally what it was like, where these people, you're with somebody for like 2 days in this small group. We all like started a business the last day, some sort of like travel thing, and made a website, and then it just didn't go anywhere, but it was totally,
I totally forgot about that. We started a business right there on the spot. That was awesome. Yeah.
Anyway, so when I say go, which is not yet, I want you to guess what year, and the first person to guess correctly will win. And hopefully we'll be able to see the chat well enough to figure that out. So, go. What year did we first meet?
2004. Nope. Am I supposed to, do we say yes when somebody gets it?
Yeah.
Okay. 13, nope. 7, nope. 17, nope. 1992. Creative Live in 1992. Everybody thinks we've known each other a lot longer than we have.
I mean,
Oh,
you're right. I think we're about the same age, right? So
White
1992, I was
Seal Mom
12.
got it. White Seal Mom got it.
Nice. That's Carol. Perfect.
Nice.
2015. Yes.
2015. There it is. All right. So if you want to shoot a message to us and with your address, then I can go ahead and get you the book.
Perfect. Thanks.
Awesome.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
Nice. So if you want to talk more about time blocking, if you want to learn more about time blocking, head over to productiveflourishing.com. We have tons of resources. We also have the time blocking blog post, which is a 3,000 word blog post on time blocking.
Holy cow.
That goes, like, talks about some of the things that we didn't actually get to today. Obviously, we can talk about this stuff all the time. It's something I love doing. So head over to productiveflourishing.com and search for time blocking, or go to productiveflourishing.com/time-blocking. We also have free planners on the website, which you can download, and a bunch of resources on heat mapping your productivity. And we are releasing a digital planner app in May, and we're doing a crowdfunding campaign for it come January.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so there's a call to action for it on productiveflourishing.com, and I'm super, super excited about the app. I've seen all the design previews, and we're about to release a demo video probably next week. So
I'm excited for this.
yeah, stay tuned. Stay tuned. I'm super excited about it. So for everybody who loves planning and is interested in using digital planners, I think this one's going to be pretty different than the options that are out there, and in all the right ways, and incorporating some of the things we've talked about the 5 projects rule, imposing constructive limits, and thinking intentionally about how you plan instead of trying to cram everything in and then stressing yourself out.
Yes, because I've done that for sure. Now, I'm curious, you said you were doing time blocking challenges. Will you be doing more of those next year?
Yeah. So January is all focused on the app, on the crowdfunding campaign. But yeah, we're going to do the time block challenge again as a live session in February. And then between now and then, we are going to be releasing a self-study version of the time block challenge, where you can actually go to the website, enroll yourself in the time block challenge, and we'll send you an email once a day for 5 days so that you can do a 15-minute exercise each day to implement time blocking in your life.
Oh, super fun. Yeah. I want to practice, and maybe next year we can get back together and you can, tell me what I'm doing wrong, or maybe we'll just be celebrating that I figured it all out with the challenge myself. So
yeah, if you figure it all out, you'll be amazing, because I don't know if anybody has it figured out.
I just keep lowering my expectations. That's my overall plan.
One of the keys to success and happiness in life is to just continue lowering your expectations.
Keep pulling back and trying to do less, because I can't do it all. So I have to just pick what are the most important things that I want to get done. And then, it's the whole big rocks theory. And then the sand, all that other stuff will get done because it has to. So,
yeah.
Well, this has been so fun, Cory. I always love talking to you. Thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and thanks for everyone who participated tonight. I really appreciate it. And especially all those of you watching in the replay. You can leave comments on this video, whether you're watching it here on Instagram or on YouTube, and let us know, and we'll hook back up with you.
Nice. Thanks again, everybody. Take care.
Take care. Bye.